The ice of a forgotten moon, waiting, sleeping until humanity found it, touched it, and somehow it responded. No one knew why it answered to humans alone. Some believed it had been searching for a new guardian. Others believed it recognized something inside the human mind, a mixture of hope, rage, and survival that made it choose them. Whatever the truth was, it no longer mattered. The galaxy had witnessed something undeniable. Humanity was no longer a joke. They were no longer fragile or helpless. With the Ark, they'd become something else, something terrifying. And the first strike, meant to crush them, had instead become a warning to all who watched. From that day forward, the stars would never laugh at Earth again. After the destruction of the Dravari fleets, the galaxy entered a strange silence. The Ark had not just ended a war, it had changed everything. No one understood how a single ship could do what entire empires could not. Some believed it was a weapon, others feared it was alive, and whispers began to spread in dark corners of space that the Ark had awakened something far older than anyone had imagined. On Earth, the people didn't celebrate victory. They were proud but cautious. The truth about the Ark was still hidden, even from most human leaders. Only a few high-ranking commanders and scientists truly knew what had been discovered decades ago under the ice of Titan's third moon. When the Ark was first uncovered, it was inactive, a silent object that seemed to defy all scans and sensors. No metal could be identified. No energy could be measured. It was as if it didn't belong to this universe. For years, humanity studied it, unable to understand its purpose or origin. Then, during a simple touch by one of the scientists, the ship responded. It didn't light up or make sound. It simply shifted its form slightly, as if it had been sleeping and now opened its eyes. That single movement had released a silent wave across the solar system, an energy no one could see but everyone felt. Machines malfunctioned. Dreams became strange. And people started hearing faint whispers in the back of their minds, not in words, but in feelings. The Ark had awakened, but it hadn't revealed itself fully until the Dravari attacked. That first battle had been a test, and the Ark had acted like a guardian protecting something important. Now, with the second attack crushed and the galaxy watching in fear, the Ark began to change. It no longer floated quietly at the edge of space. It began to move with purpose. Inside the ship, the human crew noticed the difference immediately. Walls that were once smooth became filled with strange symbols that glowed faintly. The controls no longer followed normal logic buttons change shape. Panels opened to reveal shifting patterns, and sounds echoed through the halls like whispers from another time. The operators didn't understand what was happening, but they didn't resist it. They followed instinct, and the Ark responded to trust. Then something impossible happened. The Ark opened a part of itself that had never existed before, a deep chamber hidden at its core. Inside was not a weapon, but a seat, shaped like it was waiting for someone. A young officer named Rehan, who had been part of the discovery team years ago, stepped forward. He felt a pull not from fear, but from something he couldn't explain, as if the ship had called him. When he sat in the chair, the ship reacted instantly. The glowing lines across the walls flashed, and the stars outside the ship seemed to bend again. In that moment, Ren saw something no human had ever seen. He wasn't dreaming. He wasn't hallucinating. He was shown a memory, but not his own. He saw galaxies forming, planets rising and falling, ancient beings made of light and thought, moving across the stars, building machines that could fold time, command gravity, and shift dimensions. He realized then that the Ark was not a ship. It was a remnant, a guardian created by a civilization so old, even the stars had forgotten them. They were not gods, but something close. They had seen the end of time, and they had built the Ark not to fight wars, but to protect knowledge, to guard the last secret of their kind. But something had gone wrong. They had disappeared, and the Ark had fallen into silence, waiting in the shadows for someone worthy to awaken it. Ren was not chosen for his strength or intelligence. He was chosen for something else, his will to survive, his ability to feel both fear and hope at once. The Ark recognized that in him, and now, through him, it was awake. As he stood from the seat, changed but not broken, In the heart of the galaxy, where great empires met and decisions shaped the future of millions of worlds, a new species arrived: humanity. The Galactic Alliance, a council of old and advanced civilizations, observed the humans with curiosity and mild amusement. Compared to the towering strength of the Krathor, the psychic depth of the Shalvari, and the brutal force of the Dravari Empire, the humans seemed ordinary, almost fragile. They had no known superweapons, no ancient relics of power, no fleets of planet-crushing warships. Their homeworld, Earth, was considered small and chaotic, still recovering from conflicts barely a century old. And yet, they came to the Alliance Council with strange confidence, claiming they were ready to contribute to peace and security in the galaxy. When asked what military asset they brought to the table, they presented only one ship, an odd, massive vessel named the Ark. It was not sleek or beautiful like Alliance cruisers, nor was it covered in weapons like the Dravari war engines. It floated silently in space, with an eerie design that made no sense to the best engineers. It didn't have visible thrusters or weapons. No power source could be detected. It just existed, huge, dark, and quiet. The Alliance representatives exchanged amused glances. The Dravari, proud and cruel, didn't hide their laughter. "Is this a joke?" their war general roared across the chamber. "One ship? And a dead one at that?" The humans said nothing. Their faces remained calm, unreadable. When asked for technical details, they offered none. When asked why they brought such a strange vessel, they simply said, "It will be enough." This answer only made the laughter louder. News spread quickly across the stars. Humanity had joined the Alliance and brought with them a useless ghost ship. On social channels, the jokes flew faster than light. Memes showed the Ark being pulled by ropes or being mistaken for space debris. On Dravari-controlled networks, mock videos showed Earth being crushed while the Ark floated helplessly nearby. The humans remained silent. They didn't respond to the jokes or the insults. They didn't brag or argue. They simply waited. That silence made some species curious. Others were unsettled. The Dravari, however, saw it as weakness. And in the language of the Dravari, weakness must be crushed. Within weeks, they broke the Alliance peace code and declared war on Earth. The announcement came with a show of force. 10 Dravari war fleets lit up the stars as they burned through human colonies in outer space. Mining outposts vanished overnight. Trade convoys disappeared. And still, Earth sent no fleet. Only the Ark moved. Slowly, it left Earth's orbit and headed toward the front lines. The Alliance watched in horror and disbelief. The Dravari sent out a live broadcast mocking the Ark's approach. "They send one ship against our thousands." A Dravari commander laughed, his claws raised in triumph. Let this be their final joke. Inside the Ark, there were no loud engines, no visible weapons, just a team of silent human operators, watching systems that no one else could understand. The vessel didn't match any known design, didn't follow the usual logic of construction. Some said it didn't even look human-made. As it passed the border of Dravari-controlled space, dozens of enemy ships moved to intercept. Across the galaxy, screens flickered as millions tuned in to watch the humiliation of Earth. Commentators predicted a quick and total defeat. Everyone expected the Ark to fall. But inside that silent vessel, something ancient and unknown began to stir. Earth's leaders gave no speeches. They issued no demands. They simply let the Ark go where it was always meant to go. The Ark didn't accelerate. It didn't dodge. It just drifted forward. The Dravari opened fire. Hundreds of missiles and plasma beams lit up the darkness of space, heading straight for the Ark. And that's when something strange happened. Every weapon froze. Not exploded, not deflected, just stopped in space, mid-flight, like time had halted. Sensors failed. Targeting systems went dark. Communications jammed. A strange pulse, too soft to hear but powerful enough to be felt across multiple systems, rippled out from the Ark. The Dravari ships began to spin out of control. Alarms blared. Crew members screamed. and in an instant, 1/3 of their fleet was gone, erased from space without a trace. No fire, no debris, just gone. The rest of the fleet panicked and retreated. Across the galaxy, silence replaced laughter. The broadcast ended abruptly. Reporters stared blankly at their cameras. Viewers held their breath. No one understood what had just happened. The Ark, untouched and unchanged, drifted alone once more, returning to the edge of the solar system. And Earth said nothing. They didn't celebrate. They didn't explain. They simply waited, as if they knew the galaxy had just changed forever. Suddenly, the joke wasn't funny anymore. After the shocking disappearance of the Dravari fleet, fear began to spread across the galaxy like wildfire. What was once amusement turned into uncomfortable silence, and the same species that had laughed at humanity now watched with uncertainty, wondering what kind of power Earth had hidden inside that strange vessel called the Ark. The Galactic Alliance requested a full explanation, hoping to understand what had happened, but the humans remained quiet, offering no statement, no data, and no response. Their silence was not arrogant, it was unnerving. The Dravari, known for their pride and aggression, could not accept defeat so easily. Their leaders refused to believe that one ship could erase an entire fleet. They claimed it was a trick, some kind of illusion, or perhaps sabotage from within. In their arrogance, they believed they had been embarrassed, not beaten, and they swore revenge. Soon, the Dravari War Council gathered their most powerful ships, the ones hidden deep in the Shadow System's machines built not just for battle, but for total destruction. These weren't ordinary warships. They were designed to burn planets, erase cities, and leave nothing behind. They called it a cleansing operation, and they aimed it directly at Earth. But Earth was already watching. Satellites picked up the movement of the incoming fleets. The Ark, still hovering near the edge of human territory, changed course again, drifting slowly but steadily toward the incoming threat. Earth still didn't send any backup. No fighters. No cruisers. No calls for help. Only the Ark moved, alone and without fear. The Alliance held emergency meetings, urging Earth to reconsider, to surrender, or at least prepare defenses. But the humans simply said, "There is no need." Their calm made everyone more uneasy. No one could understand what they were relying on. When the Dravari armadas crossed the neutral border and launched their attack, they didn't hold back. Giant destroyers appeared above human colonies, releasing energy bombs capable of flattening entire continents. Massive beams sliced through moons, turning them into glowing dust. They sent a brutal message. Humanity had one chance to kneel or be erased. But Earth still gave no response. Their space stations remained still. Their colonies, prepared for the worst, waited silently. Then, in the darkness beyond the asteroid belt, the Ark came alive. It didn't rush into battle, it simply arrived. Its strange black surface shimmered, and the stars around it seemed to bend slightly, as if the very fabric of space was reacting to its presence. The Dravari warships tried to engage, surrounding it with firepower that could melt continents. But something strange happened again. Their systems began to fail. Communications dropped. Targeting sensors misfired, and their own ships started to lose control. The Ark didn't fire a single visible weapon, yet its presence alone created chaos. Then, with a sudden burst of light that didn't blind but seemed to erase darkness itself, the first wave of Dravari ships disappeared. No debris, no fire, no explosion. They simply vanished from space, as if reality had folded around them and swallowed them whole. The rest of the fleet turned in panic, trying to escape, but their engines stalled, frozen by something they couldn't detect or explain. The Ark moved closer, not with speed but with certainty, and one by one, the Dravari warships fell silent and were removed from existence. Across the galaxy, people watched in horror and awe as another unstoppable fleet was erased by a ship that no one understood. Even the most advanced civilizations admitted they had never seen anything like it. Some believed it was not human technology at all, that it was something far older, something humanity had found and awakened. The Alliance demanded answers again, but Earth simply said, "We only use it when we must." That sentence alone made entire systems reconsider their alliances. The Dravari, once the cruel enforcers of galactic law, were now quiet, their voices no longer full of pride or threats. Their empire, built on fear, was now crippled by confusion and terror. Inside the Ark, the operators didn't cheer or celebrate. They monitored the strange systems, working in silence, knowing they were not in control of the ship, but merely guiding it. The Ark didn't behave like a machine. It felt more like a force of nature, something ancient and aware, something that judged threats and responded without hesitation. Earth's leaders knew this truth, but they would never reveal it. The Ark was not created. It was discovered. Buried deep under. The Ark began to broadcast again, but not in human languages. All across the galaxy, old machines, buried artifacts, and forgotten satellites that no longer functioned suddenly came to life. They echoed the same message, a warning, in a tongue only a few ancient scholars could barely begin to understand. It wasn't about war. It was about what was coming. Something that had once hunted the creators of the Ark. A force that had waited in the void between galaxies, sleeping in the dark beyond dark. The Ark had not been activated just for protection. It had been awakened because something worse than the Dravari was returning. A forgotten enemy. One that did not care about empires or ships or power. It devoured civilizations like fire consumes paper. The galaxy didn't know this truth yet, but Earth was starting to understand. Ren shared the vision with his commanders, and for the first time, the leaders of humanity didn't argue or delay. They listened and they prepared. The Ark, now fully awake, began to reshape itself again. Its surface rippled like liquid metal, and its size grew slightly, revealing weapons and systems that had been hidden in another layer of space. It was becoming more than a warship, it was becoming a beacon. And far away, in the distant reaches of an unlit corner of the universe, something moved. Not fast, not slow, but steady. As if it had heard the call. The impossible had awakened, and with it, so had the ancient fear that once made the oldest empires kneel. But this time, humanity was not afraid. With the Ark at their side, and the truth in their hearts, they would stand against whatever came. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but a new chapter was beginning, and this time, it would be written by Earth. As the Ark hovered silently in the void above Earth, its shape no longer resembled any human-made ship. It pulsed with strange light, its surface alive with patterns that moved like water, responding to forces no scientist could explain. The humans on board were no longer just observers, they were becoming part of the ship itself. Every hour brought new discoveries, but none were simple. The Ark had started to communicate, not through words, but through visions, symbols, and feelings that entered the minds of those open enough to receive them. Ren, the young officer who had first sat in the command chair, became the key. Not because he understood it all, but because the ship trusted him. It had shown him glimpses of a lost age, when its creators, beings of immense knowledge, used it to guard something greater than technology or power. Deep within the core of the Ark, hidden behind layers of shifting matter, the humans discovered a chamber unlike anything they had seen before. It was not built, it had grown, shaped by intention and energy rather than machines. In the center floated a crystalline structure, spinning slowly, humming softly like a heartbeat. No one could approach it without feeling overwhelmed, as if the crystal knew who was worthy and who was not. Ren was the only one allowed inside without resistance. When he stepped forward, the crystal responded, sending out a soft pulse that triggered a massive reaction across the ship. Doors opened, systems awakened, and files stored as pure light projected images from an age before Earth's sun had even formed. They saw galaxies colliding, worlds rising and falling, and the birth of the Ark itself. It was not a warship by design, it was a vault, a guardian, and a warning. Its purpose was not to destroy, but to protect knowledge that could change or end civilizations if used wrongly. What lay inside that crystal was more than history, it was memory, alive and aware. The Ark was not empty. It held the echo of its creators, a sentient intelligence that had survived the collapse of its own people, waiting for someone strong enough to carry their burden. The humans learned that the galaxy had once been ruled not by one, but many ancient empires. Some sought peace. Others craved dominance. The creators of the Ark had stood between them, using wisdom instead of force. But one enemy had emerged, once so dangerous it united all others in fear. This enemy, never named, had no ships or armies. It consumed minds, corrupted truth, and turned knowledge into a weapon. It didn't just destroy, it erased. The Ark had been the last hope, built to preserve what could be saved. And now, it had chosen humanity not because they were the strongest, but because they were still full of questions, still able to wonder, still willing to fight for what they didn't understand. That was the secret. The Ark didn't want soldiers, it wanted seekers. Ren began to change. Not in body, but in thought. His dreams were no longer his own. He saw through the eyes of the ancients, felt their pain, their fear, their final hope. He understood that the Ark had limits. It could protect, but only for a time. It needed minds to complete what it had started. He shared the visions with Earth's leaders, and for the first time in human history, the world united without argument. Scientists, thinkers, builders, they all worked together to understand the data the Ark shared. And hidden in that data was something terrifying. A signal. A pattern that had returned after billions of years. The same dark energy the Ark had once fought had started to move again. It had felt the Ark's awakening. The humans didn't know what form this enemy would take, but they knew it was coming. And now, they had only one choice: learn everything the Ark could teach, or face extinction unprepared. As the Ark opened its final vaults, it revealed one last secret. A path. A trail left behind by its creators, stretching across the stars, leading to a place beyond known space. It was not a trap. It was a message: come find us, if you are ready. No one knew if the creators had survived, or if only their echoes remained, but the path was clear. Ren looked out at the stars, the crew behind him silent, waiting for his decision. The Ark responded to his will, and the ship began to move not with engines, but with thought. It vanished from Earth's orbit without a sound, folding space around itself. They were going to follow the path, to unlock the final truths, and maybe, just maybe, learn how to fight the darkness that had once erased gods. The Ark had given humanity its secrets. Now it was time to prove they were worthy of them. After the Ark vanished into deep space, the Earth was no longer the same. The people had seen something they could not explain, something that had changed their understanding of life, the galaxy, and themselves. Governments no longer fought over borders because the idea of borders had become meaningless. A silent agreement had formed among all nations that survival was now tied to unity. Technology advanced faster than ever before as the data left behind by the Ark revealed methods of energy control, medicine, communication, and even thoughts that could reshape matter. Humanity entered a new age, an age of quiet preparation and cautious hope. But beneath that hope, there was fear, because no one forgot the warning buried in the Ark's memory. An old enemy was waking, one that did not conquer planets through war, but by twisting knowledge and consuming truth. Earth's skies remained calm, but the minds of its people grew sharper. A global defense network was formed not of weapons, but of minds trained to detect changes in reality, in memory, in thought itself. And then, without warning, something strange began to happen. People in isolated regions started experiencing shared dreams, visions of places that didn't exist, symbols that pulsed with meaning no one could understand, and voices that spoke in a language that sounded both ancient and familiar. At first, it was dismissed as psychological aftershocks from the Ark event. But when those people began to draw the same maps, say the same names, and describe the same structures floating in space, scientists knew something had changed. A signal was moving through humanity not through machines, but through the very network of human consciousness. It wasn't harmful, not yet, but it was strong. And it was spreading. The United Earth Assembly created a new team, known only as the Balance Division, made up of linguists, thinkers, dream researchers, and veterans of the Ark mission. Their goal was not to fight the unknown force directly, but to understand what it wanted. Among them was Azael, a former data analyst who had once studied forgotten languages for fun, now tasked with decoding dreams. What made Azael different was not his intelligence, but his silence. He listened more than he spoke, and that made him the first to see the pattern. The symbols were not a threat, they were instructions. Messages sent from a mind that had lived in another reality, trying to teach, not attack. The enemy was coming, yes, but not to destroy in the way everyone had expected. It would offer choices. It would rewrite truth. It would whisper in the minds of leaders and offer them peace without cost, knowledge without sacrifice, power without responsibility. And many would listen. That was the real danger. Not war, but surrender. Quiet, subtle, permanent. The Balanced Division raced to train Earth's leaders, thinkers, and educators to resist this influence, not by rejecting knowledge, but by questioning it, testing truth, asking why, remembering that power without wisdom was no gift. As the changes spread, Azazel received one final message in a dream so powerful it woke him screaming. A tower stood at the edge of the galaxy, built by those who had survived the first wave of darkness, left behind for anyone strong enough to reach it. The Ark had gone there. The old balance had been broken long ago, but now a new one had to be created. Not by ships or weapons, but by minds strong enough to see the truth even when it looked like salvation. The Earth would not fight a war of guns, but of ideas. And so, a signal was sent, not as a threat, but as a declaration. Humanity had changed. It was ready. It would not bow to lies, even beautiful ones. The enemy, silent for eons, answered. A soft echo returned through space, a whisper that carried no words but one clear feeling: interest. Humanity had caught its attention. What came next would decide not just Earth's future,